gonna wait oh, there we go. Smart on the recording. We have Round Rock, Texas, so right up north. That's good. Corona, California. Awesome. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm honored to be here with you again. It's a fun group, and I love these conversations with you. I have a ton of respect for you, so I'm just excited to be with your group and excited to have this conversation.
Same here. And I know that this is our second or third call that we've done together, and it's super exciting because we get really good feedback from people. We have people taking action, and it's good that this is our check-in.
Yeah.
Q2 check-in, and also seeing a little bit with the state of the economy and everything. So
Yeah.
so it's good. Guys, while we're waiting for a few more people to join, I want to see too, for everybody here, what is a question that you might have for them based as we're going into as we're in Q2?
Yeah.
What is something?
You know, my number one question right now would be, on a scale of 1 to 10, how on track with your goals and your vision for 2023 are you? Like, you still have plenty of time to course correct. You still have plenty of time to make some changes in your diet, in your reading, in your habits. It's not too late to start today. But I think the first thing you have to do is get real with yourself. Where are you right now? A lot of us live with this delusional mindset. We look in the mirror and go like, oh, these pants look okay on me. And yeah, they just shrunk in the dryer. Like, you know, all of that stuff could be true. And it could also be your diet and your exercise and stuff if you're worried about your weight. So, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at right now in your life plan for 2023 and the goals you have and the vision you have for this year? Are you on track? Are you a 10 out of 10 crushing it? Or are you off track, a 1 out of 10 and need some accountability and some help and some support around where you're at? And that's the question I'd be asking right now.
Yeah. No, that's good. And guys, let us know in the comments, as Matt say, like where are you feeling right now on a scale of 1 to 10, just so that we can see how you guys are doing. Of course, if you guys send me an email, I'll be able to send you the vision call that we did together. We did that in January, right?
Yeah,
January, the vision call for 2023. So let us know. Trista says somewhere in the middle. What's up, Trista? Trista, did your CPA get a hold of you? I know that yesterday you told me that you still haven't heard from your CPA, and taxes were due. So Susan is on track. Number 8. Diego is looking to get started.
Nice.
Ron says somewhere in the middle. So that's good, Ron. Ron is from California. Amit says no definite goals yet. Amit.
Yeah.
I almost met up with Amit this weekend, but he was traveling, but it didn't work out. 3:45 today, trying to figure it out. Cool. So people here are trying to figure out what their goals are for 2023, and that's totally fine. We have over 50 people on the call, so we're gonna get started with everybody here. And let's see. Cool. Edgar says he's on track number 7, so that's good. I'm happy that a few of you guys are on track. That's awesome. Well, Matt, as we get started, now that we have over 50 people watching, we are about to reach 60, so that's awesome. Man, I just want to wait a few. Well, we'll get started. We have 61 people now.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Again, just to reintroduce Matt King for anybody that doesn't know, Matt is the CEO of GoBundance. GoBundance is a mastermind that has over 800 millionaires.
Yep, 896.
896, almost 900 millionaires. Dude, when you guys hit 1,000, that's gonna be crazy.
Yep.
What's crazy about this is that when I joined GoBundance, I was member 33. Member 33 back in 2014. So I've seen it grow. I've seen so much of the growth happening, and it's been an honor and a pleasure because I got to meet you in 2014, 2015 as well, and we've been friends ever since. So it's been good. And then you're also the right-hand man of David Osborne, who we did the goal setting session back in December 2022, and that was amazing. The David Osborne is worth around $175 to $200 million. And it's cool to be able to do this call with you because you have a lot of knowledge. I respect everything that you've been doing, and we've also been accountability
Yeah.
buddies for a few years.
Yep.
So so yeah, it is an honor. And let us know, Matt, like based on everything that's going on from 2022 to 2023, and like
Yeah.
interest rates and the economy, what is one of the things that I know that we wanted to go over was like a state of the economy.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see, what have you been hearing about of what can happen in the future with the interest rates, with inflation and all of that stuff?
Yeah, look, man, it's a loaded question. And I'll start by saying the one part of my bio you left out is I'm a dad to two beautiful kids and a husband too. Those are honestly the hardest jobs. Like managing
Yes.
money and overseeing a group is easy. Negotiating with a 4-year-old to go to bed, that's hard.
Yes, I bet.
So
I
yeah,
bet.
I'm super fortunate to be here, man. I look up to you. I admire you. I appreciate you, and to be on this call with you is really a cool thing for me. What we're seeing in the economy right now is just a lot of uncertainty. And I think like no matter where you look, you'll see very different opinions about what's going to happen and what's going on. The thing I'm tracking closely over the next few weeks here is the quarterly earnings that come out in the stock market. I think that's going to be a determiner for what we start to see. I've been convinced that we're headed towards a correction or some sort of a downturn. The beautiful part about it is if you're convinced long enough that that's what's going to happen, at some point you hit that point of capitulation and you're like, we're not going to see a downturn. The market's going to heal. We're going to be good. Move on. And I finally reached that point. I'm like, you know what? Maybe we're just not going to see a correction. Maybe we're not. And the thesis behind that could be that the Fed has the largest balance sheet in the world, technically. And they're the largest debtor in the American society, right? Like the government has the largest amount of debt. Well, if you can control your own interest rates, why would you raise the interest rate on the largest balance sheet debt that you possibly had, right? So
That's right.
there's this theory that's circulating now that maybe the Fed might be in trouble, just like what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, where they have a duration mismatch where they're very long, short-term like yield stuff. So they're like long 3% interest rate bonds and debt and stuff. And so if that happens to be the case, could they, as a Federal Reserve, be in trouble on their balance sheet? And if they are they going to continue to raise interest rates? And maybe they might just be banking on a black swan event like COVID or a war or something crazy to bail out this inflation problem. And they might just say, we understand we can't fight inflation and it is what it is. And we're just going to let things keep going and see what happens and wait for the bubble to pop. Now, I don't think that that's really going to happen. My belief is we're going to see a correction here. I think you'll start to see earnings stumble a little bit here in the public markets. And we saw it a little bit late last year or mid last year, and then it kind of corrected itself and healed a little bit. But with the cost of debt, the cost of capital, just, the cost of goods in the marketplace right now, I think you're going to see a lot of corporate earnings dip. And when that happens, you're going to see a lot of fear in the stock market. Fear is going to lead to layoffs, which is going to lead to more fear, which is ultimately going to trickle down to real estate. Now, I don't think the real estate's going to be like it was in 06, 07, 08. We have that the banks were much more prudent on their underwriting. They were much more aggressive on making sure that the borrowers were who the borrowers said they were over the last couple of years. And the other thing is like there's some crazy number out there, like 75% of all loans in the United States right now have a 4.5% interest rate or lower.
Yes.
And if that's the case, like that debt is so cheap. And so I think the reason that we're seeing a supply issue or, an inventory issue in the real estate market is because these people are looking at houses just like I would, just like you would, saying, well, yeah, I really could use a bigger house, but my interest rate's 4.5. If I sell this and go get a bigger house, I'm not only buying a bigger payment with the bigger house, but my interest rate is also going up 200 to 250 basis points. Instead, I'm just going to take 20 or 30,000 bucks, put it in the renovations of my house, get what I need out of this house, and keep this low debt. So I don't think we'll see as much of a shift in the real estate as we did in 06, 07, 08. I think there's a lot of equity in houses. I mean, let's face it, the government printed a lot of money coming out of COVID that caused asset values to rise pretty dramatically. And so I think people still have good amount of equity in their houses. So I think if they do start to get in trouble, the likelihood of them selling at or above the value of their loan is pretty good. And in 06, 07, 08, what we saw was a lot of people were underwater and then they got foreclosed on. And that's when we saw the big issues. So
yeah,
we're seeing a lot of uncertainty. It's really an interesting time to be alive because I've bought like 16 different crystal balls and none of them have worked. I've shaken them all. I've rubbed them all. I've slept under, put them under my pillow. I've done everything and none of them work. We don't know what we don't know. But what's interesting is like in 2 years, we're going to be able to look back on history and be like, oh my gosh, it was so obvious.
Mhm.
So there's this saying that sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees. And so I believe right now, like the best thing we can do is pull ourselves out of the day-to-day chaos, look around the broad landscape, avoid confirmation bias, which is Googling when is the downturn coming, because Google will give you all of the answers of when it's coming, and look at both sides of the spectrum, play that steel man game where you're like, I can negotiate and argue to both sides of why we'll see a recession and why we won't see a recession. Have as much data as you possibly can, have a crystal clear vision for your life, and just keep taking action. And
Yeah.
you'll come out ahead.
Yeah.
You know, you're never going to time the market perfectly. You're never going to get it exactly right. But if you're prudent, if you're diligent, if you have a vision for your life and you take action, you're going to win in the long run.
Yeah. And Matt, I totally agree with you, because one of the things that you did say was about like the lack of inventory,
Yeah.
right? Too.
Yeah.
Along with everything that you mentioned, but the lack of inventory, one of the main reasons why that's caused is because if somebody has a home, right?
Yep.
But and their interest rate is like one of my houses is at 2.99.
Yeah.
Like that is free money, right? So I'm not gonna sell. If I had to sell that home, I would go somewhere where I am gonna pay more, and rents, because rents have gone up. I don't even want to sell my house, because if I decide to sell and then use the equity to buy another one, but it's too expensive because of the interest rate or whatever, and then I want to go and rent maybe for a year, I'm still paying double maybe what I was paying in my mortgage.
Right.
So that's one of the main things that's causing the lack of inventory, which is interesting because before there was a lot of inventory because people just couldn't pay their mortgage.
Yeah.
So
Look, I mean, there's this beautiful woman who's on this call right now by the name of Althea Osborne. She was one of Gary Keller's first agents. And if you go have wine on her terrace at her house, she'll tell you all the sayings she used to teach her clients. And one of them, I'm going to butcher it and she'll tell me I butchered it, but it was something along the lines of like, you don't buy a house, you buy a payment. And so if you start thinking about you're buying a payment, which is your mortgage payment, and you look at your current payment, 2.99%, you essentially have a 50% discount on your payment. Because if you go to buy one today, you're going to get a 6.5% interest rate, 350 basis points higher. So it's like if you went to the store right now and you could buy a gallon of milk for 50 cents or a gallon of milk for $1, which one would you buy? You're going to buy the one that's 50 cents, assuming it's not stale and it's not going to make you sick.
yeah.
But you already know because it's your house. So like at the end of the day, Americans are buying a payment. Then when they look at their financial sort of forecast, they have to say, what can I afford? You know, what is not going to impact my cost of living? Gas has gone up, food has gone up. So the last thing that they can afford is to double their payment on their mortgage because they bought more house at a higher interest rate. So, you know, I think we're seeing a lot of Americans make really good decisions. And I don't want to liquidate this house. I have a really good interest rate. I have a really good payment. I'm going to be a little uncomfortable, but I'm going to make it work because other things are more expensive right now in the world. And I'm going to focus on, you know, making sure I can provide for my family.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And one thing that I wanted to take your vote on, or your take on, is on it's on the banks doing the FHA
Yep.
loans now at 40-year loans.
Yeah.
I have a view on it because of like house hacking
Yeah.
and like it all depends, because I hear, just like you said, oh, it's bad about the 40-year mortgage because you're going to pay more in interest and all this other stuff. But in my eyes, is it for anybody that's looking to house hack to get started, now you have the ability to afford a bigger house and be able to pay less on your mortgage and live for free, technically, or have the ability to live for free as a way to start your path to financial independence.
Yeah.
So that's my take on the 40-year-old on the 40-year mortgage. But what is your opinion on why you think the banks are doing that?
Well, look, man, they only have so many levers they can pull. And at the end of the day, like if you look at basic fundamental econ, which I never took the AP test because I cheated on most of the tests, which I'll admit to this day, but I never admitted it back then. Like there's a widget machine, right? There's a factory. There's only so many things you can control that can output more widgets. You can increase your amount of workers. You can increase the assembly line. You can run multiple shifts. You can buy new equipment. But like at the end of the day, at some point, you're going to hit your max on what you can actually accomplish. At some point, your output is going to be capped. The same came true with the 30-year mortgage. It used to be the 15, then it was the 30. They can mess with interest rates. They can mess with arms. They can do adjustable. They can do floating. Like they can do all these things. But at some point, you max out on the amount of things you can pull, the amount of levers you can pull. And so they had to pull a new lever. Like, I would not be surprised in the next 2 years if we see a 50-year mortgage.
Yeah.
And they'll use the logic of like the average American lives in their house 47 years. Or they'll come up with some crazy stat that justifies the logic. But at the end of the day, it's all a big widget machine. And they just have to make sure the widgets are being produced at the right amount so that we have a healthy economy. And that was one of the levers that I believe they had to pull. And I think we'll see them pull more and more, which is one of the things they can do to keep the costs down, to keep people transacting in a high interest rate environment, is increase the duration of the loan, make it a longer term. And they've done that.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. And so then for anybody here that has any questions too about the economy, the state of the economy, the 40-year mortgage, feel free to put it here in the chat. And also, Alfie Osborne, hello.
Yeah.
Cheers to you. Thank you for being on the call.
Student of life, man.
Student of life, for real. If you got, guys, for anybody that follows me on Instagram or is in Fi Investors, I always talk about being a student of life. And Althea Osborne, she's on this call, learning, continuing to expand on her knowledge. And she's the number 7 agent. Number 7, right?
5'7",
5'7".
Correct us all.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
So imagine being, so there's 140,000 agents within Keller Williams or more. And she is the number 7 agent. So for example, I'm member 33 in GoBundance out of 800. She's number 7 of 150,000 agents. So she's seen it grow and expand. So it's an honor to have you here, Althea. So now that we talked a little bit about the economy, let's chat before we get on the 3 critical keys to maximize your investment in 2023. Let's talk a little bit about the commercial banking, like what's going on with the commercial loans, commercial real estate. Because I feel like there's a difference between commercial residential real estate, like multifamily apartments and all that stuff, compared to the commercial buildings and what's going on with like downtown of different buildings and all of that stuff.
Yeah, so I would say like it's going to be an interesting time for sure. I think the problem we're going to have, and again, like I'm not an economist, I'm not a guru, my crystal balls are all broken. This is just my opinion, my 2 cents on listening to a lot of people, is we're going to start to see an issue where a lot of people bought in 2021, 2022, when the government was printing money, assets values were rising and interest rates were low, with this idea of value adding property, like improving the unit to get a little bit more rent or a little bit more this. The problem is a lot of people underwrote those. And the way you make money in investing essentially is you can press the cap rate. Now we could get into like how to calculate the cap and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you buy an asset at 5 cap, if you compress it down to a 4 cap, you've made money. If you sell it at a 6 cap, you've probably lost money. Now there's rent and other things to take into consideration, but by compressing the cap, that's how you make a spread. The problem is interest rates is like a direct function of the cap rate. So if interest rates go up, by virtue, like the cap rate has to go up. But if the cap rate goes up, you make less money. So the problem is a lot of these people underwrote this real estate, both commercial, buildings, as you're alluding to, but also commercial residential, which is multifamilies of we're going to value add, we're going to compress the cap, and then we're going to sell it off in the future. Exactly. They didn't take into consideration interest rates rising 350 basis points in 12 months or whatever the exact numbers are.
Exactly.
And nobody thought it would happen as fast as it did. You add in the work from home component with COVID, which I think offices is still like 40% capacity based on pre-COVID numbers. You add that into the fact of like people are wanting to like commute less. You add that into the effect of like people are wanting to like, can I travel abroad and work? Like you add all these layers in, and I think you're going to start to see some real distress in office, in commercial residential real estate, which would be multifamily and bigger units. Where I think you're probably a little bit insulated is warehouse. Like I think warehouse has done pretty good. I think the values have stayed pretty strong there. As long as you have a good tenant, like you're going to be okay there. But I just think you're going to see a lot of people that got out over their skis. They thought that they could value add units that had already been value added. They thought that they could do some stuff to compress the cap, and in a raising interest rate environment, it's really hard to do that.
Exactly.
And so I think that's where you're going to see the pain. That's where you're going to feel the pain.
Yeah, and one of the things on the commercial side too is because of the fact that the loans are in like the interest rate changed in like 3 years or 5 years or 7 years, and anybody that already went through like in 2021, 2022, like now in the next 18 months, they're going to see those changes. and banks, because they're going to have to refinance.
Correct.
And the issue that happens on this commercial loans is when they refinance, the banks might also require more loan to value. So this is going to make the investors, the owners of the property, or the LPs, GPs of the deal, to have to put more cash. So they're going to do a capital raise call to be able to get that loan at a 60% loan to value or 50% loan to value. So here in a bit, we're going to be talking about what you guys can do to be ready to take advantage of these situations, if that's something that is interest for you, but also be able to learn about what's going on now, so that you guys can invest wisely in the future. But that's definitely something that the banks are going to have to do. And the people that underwrote the deal in the hopium that that interest rates weren't gonna go that high, or maybe they didn't underwrite it at all. Because if you wrote a deal at 4% for the next 5 years in 2021, you're screwed right now.
Yeah, I mean, and the problem is a lot of these people, when they were doing this stuff, we were in this really low interest rate environment, and people kept saying like, they'll never raise rates. They'll never raise rates. So then you add in this idea of like, yeah, you've got those fixed rate things that balloon at 3, 5, 7 years, depending on the note. You add in the floating interest rate stuff, and then it gets really interesting, because a lot of that stuff resets monthly. Some of it resets quarterly.
Oh, man.
Almost none of it resets annually. So now you talk about your interest rate is adjusting every single quarter as things are ticking up. And as that interest rate adjusts, so do the restrictive covenants inside of the document. So do the other covenants inside of the document. So now your reserves have to be higher. Your DSCR rate is impacted. And so now the next thing you know, like, a lot of these funds are doing capital calls to increase their reserves because they're no longer in compliance with their loan documents, because the interest rate has floated up on them so much, and they didn't underwrite and they weren't managing cash reserves accordingly. So you've just got to be very, very prudent and very careful of the kind of debt you put on an asset. Like, I think understanding debt and being comfortable with it is like the greatest thing you can learn. And it's like the greatest strength, like very polarizing human. I'm not taking any political stance on this, but Donald Trump is a guru at this. He understood the power of leverage and using other people's money. And he understood the power of using bank money to make himself more money. And he got really freaking good at the game. He mastered the game. People say he declared bankruptcy a million times. Yes, he did, but that was within the rules of the game that he played. And he just knew the rules better than most. And yeah, he probably crossed the line sometimes. I'm not saying I'm in agreement with any of his statements or his political stuff, but in terms of managing his debt, he understood the power of it. And I think one of the things you see really successful people do is you see them get really knowledgeable about debt and the power it has. Like, it's like Mother Earth. It's like nature. It's like, you do not want to fight a windstorm, but if you understand the power of wind and you're out sailing the ocean, if you point your sails in the right direction, you are going to go faster than anybody else. So you have to understand where that power is coming from. You have to respect it. You have to know that it could take you down at any moment if you're not careful. And you have to harness its power to really let yourself go to where you want to go.
Damn, that's a really good analogy. I'm like,
I butchered it a little bit.
I should be taking
tried,
notes
man.
over
I
here.
tried.
Guys, hopefully you guys are taking notes, because this is good stuff. This is good stuff. Dude, we have 78 people on the call. That's awesome.
It's good.
So okay, so we talked a little bit about the commercial banking, and in a bit, as I mentioned, we're gonna talk about the key things that people can take advantage of the situation with their investments, because I feel like what's gonna happen when those people may not be able to get those capital calls, right? There's gonna be opportunities for other investors, because these properties might go into foreclosure, or they might go into a situation where other investors may just be able to get them at a much lower value. But I've also heard that another option would be the US, the feds or whatever, being able to like try to fix this. Just because they don't want this type of issue going on in the economy. So they might have to get creative to be able to fix that stuff.
Well, let's face it. All of the politicians in government are elected officials. If the economy is crashing, are you going to vote for the president if he was responsible, quote unquote, for what happened? Like, all of these people are playing a game way bigger than any of us can comprehend, way bigger than any of us know, to protect their jobs, to protect their ass, to protect themselves. And to manipulate things to make themselves look good. And it's kind of like the stock market. I'm not big in the stock market. Why? Because there are people way smarter than me, way more knowledgeable than me, with way more experience than me, that have inside options that I'll never be exposed to, I'll never have access to, that are playing a game that I don't have, I don't have an unfair advantage in. And so, when you look at like politics, like, yes, I think there is a good chance, like just like they did with Silicon Valley Bank, like the government will step in to protect it. Was Silicon Valley Bank the canary in the coal mine? We won't know for a while. I bet in 3 years, there's a Netflix documentary that comes out that blows everybody's mind. But in the meantime, I think there's always going to be things we can't account for. That's why that saying, don't fight the Fed, is so famous, because like it is a powerful force way greater than any of us understand or recognize. And there's a lot of greasing palms in that industry and in politics. And you just don't want to fight that machine. It's a machine way bigger than any of us are, and more powerful. And so you just have to respect it and understand that they're going to manipulate the game to win.
Exactly. And we can play that game too.
Yeah.
From that perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Matt, to change subjects a little bit on going from commercial banking to the 3 key things that people should do to maximize their investments in 2023, as we're going into a economy that's a little bit unstable. But that I still feel like there's opportunity for anybody that wants to take action. I feel like by doing these 3 key things that we're going to be talking about, you can still succeed and be able to have a win for you, for your family, for your goals, and be able to achieve your vision of your life. So
yeah, look, the first thing I'll say is like, we are so fortunate if we live in America. Like, we are still in the best country in the world to make wealth, to build wealth, to earn a living, to live the life of your dreams. Like, we have all of these opportunities. You have YouTube, podcasts, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, be careful. I think that's the Chinese government, but that's a whole nother theory. But we have all of these opportunities to us to go learn, to go grow, to go take what we want and go have an opportunity. So like, the first thing I'd say is like, we already are ahead of most of the world because we're in the right country. The first thing I would encourage everybody to do is have a thesis for your investment. Like, why are you doing what you do? The number one issue I see with successful people is they have a plan for their business, but they don't have a plan for their wealth. And my question to them is like, why do you have a crystal clear vision for your business, but not a crystal clear vision for your wealth? So like, I'm not going to put you on the spot right now, but if I were to put you on the spot and say, Diego, what is your investment thesis? Like, I would love to hear something like, I target a 15% cash on cash return. I never want more than 65% loan to value on any asset I buy. And I only invest in operators who have been through a downturn and have a track record of success.
Sure. I wish I did.
I'm like, dang, now this guy's only looking at 15% IRR return. Anything higher than 65% LTV is automatically out. If the person started their investment business last year, Diego's out. If they have no track record of success, Diego is out. And so now you just use this opportunity matrix that David talks about. You use this lens to say, okay, I'm going to take this really wide funnel, which is all of the deals possible in the world. And I'm going to say, this is what I want for me. And it's going to whittle down to like 2%. So now you're not like, oh my gosh, what do I want to do a deal? You're like, okay, these are the exact criteria I am looking for in my deal. So the first thing I would say, when weathering a downturn, you are going to see opportunity everywhere. People are going to be like, buy Bitcoin. Oh, what about NFTs? Did you buy an NFT? Like, oh, join this club, do this, jump there. Like, pause, look at your investment thesis and go an inch wide and 1 mile deep on that thesis. And in 5 years, you will be miles ahead of everybody else. If you try to constantly chase the rabbit, you are going to get lost. You're going to get squashed. You're going to get killed. It's not going to work. I mean, you might get lucky once in a while. You might hit red and blackjack and or in roulette and all of a sudden have a giant fortune. But ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to get caught chasing 1 million rabbits and you're going to catch 0. So have an investment thesis. Go super deep on that investment thesis. Get really clear on what it is. Like, I don't invest in consumer products goods because consumer product goods is really bad. I don't invest in any funds that don't have a big 5 fund behind it. I don't look at any operators that just moved to the United States in the last 2 years. I only look at operators who are immigrants, or, like, have a really clear thesis on your investment. I don't look at deals inside of, the major MSAs. I only look at deals inside of the major MSAs. Like, why? And get crystal clear on the why. So the first thing I would tell everybody to do is have a thesis. So as you weather the downturn, as you navigate these choppy waters that we could be upon, you can use that thesis, that vision to navigate it and to be your guiding light, your star, so that you know where you're going, you don't get distracted. Yeah.
And what are some things that people can do to this, like, to see that thesis? Like, if they're early on in their investment journey, what are some tips that you can give to that person?
The best thing I can give you is like, go back and watch the vision thing we did. Start with a vision. Okay. So like perfect example is what is your net worth? Maybe it's $10. Okay, cool. What do you want it to be in 5 years? $50. Okay, cool. So in 10 years, we need to 5x your money. What is that rate of return? I'm not smart enough to calculate that, but if I was, it'd probably be somewhere around 17% or 18%, something like that, IRR. And then go, okay, now I just have my deal. Like start with the end in mind. What is the goal and by when? And then reverse engineer it. Like it's not rocket science.
Yes.
Just reverse. It's like the same as if at the beginning of the year you said, I want to lose 50 pounds. You wouldn't say like, by the end of next year, I want to lose 50 pounds and I'm just going to aimlessly wander through the next year. Well, most people will, and that's why they fail their New Year's resolution. But if you started at the end of the year and said, my body fat is 22%. I want to get that down to 18%, which means I weigh about 118 pounds, which means I need to lose 2 pounds a month for the next 4 months and blah, blah, blah. Like if you had this crystal clear plan and then you could reverse engineer habits into the plan, like guaranteed success, like you're going to win. Add accountability on it. No doubt you win. So like, if you don't have a vision for your life, just start where you're at, sit in a beautiful place, create a vision, map out where you're going in the future. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, whatever you're comfortable with, 1 year, whatever you're comfortable with, and then reverse engineer it. What do I need to do today to get me one step closer to that goal? And then the next day, what do I need to do today to get me one step closer to that goal? And it's a hero's journey, 1 foot in front of the other, every single day, marching towards that target that you've set for yourself with accountability, goals, habits along the way, and you'll get there.
That was good. That was good. So that was key number 1, which is working on your thesis.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that I definitely, this is something that I'm going to use for myself because early on, and you mentioned this, I forget. So you mentioned this in an interview with Aaron and Muchastegui at a house over here in Austin. You mentioned something that I never heard before, but it was about when everything is going well. I wish I brought my journal.
Well, I think you're thinking of that Warren Buffett quote. When people are fearful, be greedy, and when people are greedy, be fearful.
No. It was more whenever like you see, like you don't see the mistakes or you don't see the leaks in your business when everything is going well. And I was like, holy crap, because that was happening in 2021. Like 2020, I sold 56 homes. 2021, I sold over 50, and I made really good money. Yeah. And I was like you said, NFTs. I was like, sure, why not? Crypto, sure, why not? And then everything went down, right? But if I had my thesis, this is something I always try to be a student of life, right? So now, after hearing this too, I'm gonna be applying this on the thesis, and then whenever the shiny object comes up, it's gonna be like, does this fit in my vision of what I want my investments? And then also surround yourself with people that also have a similar thesis than you, so that you can be analyzing similar deals and so forth.
And I would tell you, don't deprive yourself of shiny objects ever. It's just like sweets. Like if you're like, hey, I'm going to go sugar free. If it's your birthday, have a slice of cake. Like feed your spirit, but just make sure it's a very, very small sliver. Like if you're going to go into NFTs, your investment thesis is like, I'm going to do 2.5% of my net worth, which is one of those monkeys, which is probably worth nothing now, or whatever those things are. Like, play the game, but just play it and understand like the odds are not in your favor in that game. It's kind of like walking into the casino. Who walks into the casino with their entire bank account in their pocket and goes, I'm putting this all out there tonight and I'm going to win? Like nobody does that. They walk into the casino with the amount of money they're set to lose. Like the really disciplined people will leave their debit card in the car so they can't pull out any more cash, right? Like look at the shiny object as a casino. What are you willing to risk that will absolutely like most likely go to zero? Put that money there, watch it, nurture it, hope that it works, but understand it's probably not going to. Scratch that itch, if you will, and then move on and go back to the main core of your thesis, which is 98% of your wealth. And what are you going to do with that?
That makes sense. So Matt, that was number 1. What is number 2 on that path? And let me see if there's any other questions. I think something like when the
that's a beautiful statement too. Yeah.
Naked.
Yeah, I keep telling everybody like we're gonna see who's swimming naked. Here we go. We're gonna see who's swimming naked. No, and I think like what we were talking about is just how like cash flow in good times like cover up a lot of leaks in a ship. So like when things are going really well, you don't see the holes in the boat because you just throw money at problems and plug the holes. And that flows really well into number 2, which is discipline. Now is a really good time to say, oh my gosh, I've got a hole in the boat. let me pause, let me figure out why I have a hole in the boat, let me figure out how to properly fix the hole in the boat and prepare for the shift, that hole could take you down. And so you really want to get super clear in a shift on discipline. Like you have to be super disciplined. Your property manager sends you your bill. Wow, why was there $50 in painting? In the good times, you didn't care about the $50, but now
Exactly.
you really need to focus on every single dollar that is coming into your universe and going out of your universe and maximizing those dollars. Hey, why was that painted? Oh, well, we had a touch up. Okay, well, that's a tenant's responsibility according to the lease. Please go back to them and get the $50 from them. Like that $50 is not going to change your month, but it could potentially help change your destiny, because if you can correct all those little leaky holes on the ship, you're going to stop yourself from going down. So the second thing I'd encourage everybody to do is get really, really disciplined around your money. Negotiate with your property managers, negotiate with the landlords, negotiate with the guy coming to do the repair on the stove. Like make sure that you are maximizing your dollars, because that extra couple $100, if you multiply that across 100 doors you own or 10 doors you own, all of a sudden now you're talking about thousands of dollars a month. And if all of a sudden things get rocky and shaky, that could be one extra month of payments. That could be one extra month of debt service. Like, that could really be the determining factor between you surviving the shift and not surviving the shift. So like, it's boring, it's painful. I mean, if you're high detailed, it's easy, but if for most of us, it's boring, it's not sexy, it's not something you're excited about to talk about at happy hour, but like, get super disciplined around your numbers. Like, what's coming in, what's going out, what is going out that I can correct and cut down. And can I cut my expenses by 20% or 30%? If we think the shift's going to be 20 or 30%, try to cut your expenses 20 or 30%.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And now that we just ended Q1, January, March, and February, January, February, March, we can actually, that one of the challenges will be to, if you have multiple properties, right, you can look at your P&Ls, talk to your property managers and see where those expenses, those hidden expenses have been, that maybe before they weren't as important. Maybe before you were like, it's okay, it's only $10, it's only $50. That renewal fee, it's okay. But now it's like more like, holy crap, let me just maintain, let me see where those expenses, and hold them accountable as well, so that there's no extra fees. That's really important. The other thing is, when viewing your P&L, make sure that you are looking at fixed expenses, but also more importantly, the variable expenses, and not only for just your properties, but also for yourself, right? As yourself, is like, do I really need Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney Plus, and all this other stuff? If you're only using two, it might be just $10 here, $10 there, but I bet you that it begins to add up. I know some people that have Orange Theory membership, Pilates membership, yoga, whatever, and they have 4 and they only go to Gold's Gym.
Yeah.
You're like, what the heck? Where before it was like, it's only $200, it's okay. Now it's more like, let's see, as we're navigating this shift, making sure that you are holding your dollars accountable and that you're holding yourself accountable as well.
Well, we're so fortunate to live in the century we do. Like, there's technologies that will go through your credit card statement and say, these are all the auto charges you have. Like back in Althea's, they didn't even have credit card statements, right? Like back when it was handwriting checks. And so you actually had to like see what was going on and you could pay attention. Now we live in this crazy universe where you swipe your credit card once and the next thing you know, like you're charged $9.99 for the next 13 years. And you're like, what is this yoga by Jamie? I never even signed up for this. What is this? So like, use the technologies, use the decade we're in to your advantage to go like, wow, what can I use to figure out where I have those holes in my ship and clog those holes? And like, you're exactly right. Like, this is not just on your investments. This is on your personal side. Like, can you cut the cleaning lady to every other week rather than weekly? Can you figure out how to carpool to work so you're filling the gas tank once, not twice? Like, just where can you start to pay attention to? And even if you're not ready or willing to pull the levers yet, know where the levers are. So when the time comes and you have to pull them, you're ahead of the game. Because if you're looking for the levers to pull when you need to pull the levers, you're already too late.
Yes.
Like the ship's going down.
Exactly. And like, that's what happened with COVID too. Like with COVID, it caught a lot of people were like, oh crap, I don't even have a couple of $100 in my savings.
Yeah.
Right. That was one of the articles that was going on a lot. So like, by investors, that's funny. Yeah, Trista. But hey, you're gonna be watching this recording over here. That's funny. Let's see. All right. So that was number 2. So
Yeah.
number 2 was having the discipline to
Yeah.
look at your finances.
Yep.
And what about number 3, the last one? And this is one of my favorite ones when we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, man, I think the last one is all about mindset, right? Successful people understand that by putting off your problems, you make them worse. I'll say that again. Successful people understand by putting off the problems, they get worse. The problems will get worse. So there's this concept around a storm, right? A storm is rolling in and there's a pasture of buffalo and a pasture of cows.
Mhm.
As the storm comes, the cows see the storm and they start to run. Are cows fast? No. So the cows are not running the storm. So the storm ultimately catches up with the cows. The cows aren't smart enough, so they keep running. The storm continues to pelt on them. And guess what? They get rained on constantly. As the storm passes all the way through them and all the way past them, they're exhausted, etc. As the storm rolls in, the buffalo look, they see a storm coming. They're like, okay, we're just going to chill here for a minute. As the storm approaches them and gets close to them, they face the storm and they run through it, knowing that the path of least pain, the path of least resistance is through the storm. Because if the storm is moving left to right and they're moving right to left, they're going to be in the storm way less time than that cow trying to outrun the storm.
Mm-hmm.
So now is a great time to be a buffalo. Don't try to think that the storm isn't coming. Don't try to act like those problems will go away. The debt collector will ignore you. The bank won't call you. Lean into your problems, face them head on, have an incredible group of people like FI investors around you that can help you navigate this, that can be a board of directors for your life, that can hold you accountable to leaning in and running to the storm, charging the storm, and coming out on the other side faster than the cow and in a much better position because you'll have way more bandwidth, way more mental capacity because you'll have been in the storm for less, ultimately shortening the duration you felt the pain.
Exactly. And right now I feel like this is exactly one of the things that we have to do, because sometimes it might be uncomfortable for some people to look at their finances and be like, holy crap, I've been avoiding this for a while. And then now, as I mentioned, as we ended Q1 and go into Q2, this is a perfect time to take responsibility, right? And one of the things that, as you see the storm, as you might see some problems coming on, it's important for you to take 100% responsibility, have the awareness, number one, then take 100% responsibility and then take action towards it. And this towards it is charging into the storm.
Dude, charge the storm, right? Like, I just keep going back to weight because it's such an easy analogy. Like, we all get in our pants that one day where the button was a little tighter. And like, okay, that was the dryer. Then the next day it's still a little tighter. Like, man, maybe there's some issues here. Do we address it that moment or do we avoid it? If we address it that moment, turn head on, boom, I'm going to run to the weight loss. I'm going to hit the gym. The pain is so much shorter because we maybe only had a half a pound to cut off or maybe a pound to cut off. But what happens is most of us, pants are tighter. Okay, man, pants don't fit. Now I got to go lose 15 pounds. And the pain to lose 15 pounds is way more significant than the pain to lose 1.
Dude,
and so lean into it, like recognize it, have the awareness. And you're right, it is freaking uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. But have people around you that aren't afraid to say like, yo, dude, like now is the time to charge the storm. Like, have a code word, have a nice word, have a safe word, do whatever you got to do, but have people around you that hold you accountable that say, hey man, you need to check yourself because a storm is coming in your world. And I want to see you face as little pain as possible.
Yeah. And right now with everything changing, especially like too on the realtor side, a lot of people that were really successful just because of the way that the market was going up. A lot of it wasn't based on skill. It was just that you had so many people reaching out to you. Hey, I want to buy a house. I want to sell my house. Hey, I want to move. I want to come here to Austin, for example. A lot of it was not based on skill. And now we're seeing the people that are staying on are the skillful people, are the people that now, in order for us to make the same thing, make the same sales, for example, as we were back in 2022 or 2021, the effort is going to have to double, or the leverage is going to have to double too. So it's definitely things that we have to be aware of. And the people that are going to be the cows in this example, that are people that are going to leave, these are the kinds of people that you do not want to, that you don't want to not surround yourself with, but like follow what they're doing. You want to go with the people that are actually charging the storm,
Yeah.
because they are going to be the ones that are going to be able to help you out the most.
Well, and let's be real. There's one thing I would tell you, like you're right. You're seeing the skillful succeed right now in real estate.
Mhm.
But the one distinction I'd make is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. And so
Yes.
now is an opportunity to, regardless of if you're talent or not, work hard and give yourself an unfair advantage to win. Like that is the one thing I am confident in myself of every single day. And I'm so fortunate to have an incredible support system in my wife, my daughter, my son, my mom, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, people around me. Like I'm so fortunate to have them support the vision and the hard work that I'm willing to put in. And I know without a question of a doubt, I will outwork anybody.
Mhm.
And if you wake up every single morning knowing that you're willing to outwork the person across the table on that deal, outwork the person trying to hustle your client, outwork the person trying to hustle that deal, like you are going to win. It's just
Exactly.
a matter of time. Like, so I can't control what happens in the market. I can't control what the Fed does with interest rates, but I can control how I get up out of bed every day, how hard I'm willing to work, the vision I have for my life, and the choice of direction I make on whether I'm going to charge the storm or retreat.
Yes, and that choice is powerful, and it's up to
That's all
you
we
to
have, man, is
determine that.
choice. That's it. That's all we got. We
Yeah.
got choice. That's it.
Yeah. No, that's good. Guys, for right now, what kind of questions do you guys have? What
What's
questions
cool, man,
on?
is I heard Cody Cross was in Austin today. He saw David at Civil Goat, and then my wife
Yes.
and I got done with our workout, and I saw him at Civil Goat, and he was like deep in a call. I would have said hi to him. So it's cool to see him pop up on this call and actually be in Austin right now. It's a
What's
small
up,
world,
Cody?
man.
What up? What up? Look at that, Cody Cross. Keep going. That's right. Yes, I heard you saw David. What questions, guys? What questions or comments do you guys have?
Let's do questions,
Um,
man. Comments
yeah,
aren't useful. Let's do
that's
questions.
true. That's true.
We're here to
Any
deliver
questions,
value.
guys? Questions on some either investment strategy, what you guys are thinking about what's going on in the market. We have here Matt
We got
King,
these
who is on.
headphones.
Oh yeah.
We can hear people if they want to unmute themselves and
Oh
ask questions.
yeah. Guys, you guys want to feel free to unmute yourself. If you have questions, please raise your hand. If you do, this way we can call on you. And for anybody here too that's watching, feel free to because we can see you here too. So feel free to turn on your cameras. Anybody have questions? Raise your hand, please. We'll put a comment here on the chat. Put your question in the chat.
Nobody has questions. We can just
No
keep rolling
questions?
too.
Still have 72 people, so that's good.
Somebody's got to have one question.
Guys, look at that. He manages a portfolio.
I
I
don't
don't,
even
know
know
where
where
to
to
start. What's up, Cody? All right, Cody, what is your question? Let's see. I don't know.
He's unmuting.
Cody? I don't know if you can unmute yourself.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
I got it.
All right, what is your question?
I really wish I had a better question, honestly, but this is just the same. I was at another meetup today, and it was a commercial guy, and they were raising money for a couple of different projects, but it's the same conversation. It's the same stuff everybody is saying. And I mean, maybe a cool question would be like, what's the biggest difference in what you're doing now today as opposed to like 12 months ago? So like April 2022 versus April 2023. Like what's the most like eye-opening, like, wow, this needs to happen right now. And we need to make sure that everything keeps going.
I would say in April of 2022, we were more aggressive at chasing opportunity. And in April of 2023, we're much more aggressive at letting opportunity chase us.
Mm-hmm.
A great example is we had an oil and gas deal come across our desk right around January. And the sponsor I talked to him for about 90 minutes, and he told me it was the best oil and gas deal you could ever find. And here's all the reasons, and this is why, and these are the numbers, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to produce all this stuff. And I went through the whole process. I was like, look, dude, it's a great deal, whatever. Awesome. Congratulations. We're out. That same deal now has come across our desk on Monday of this week at even better terms, at even better numbers, at an even better rate. And so like everybody pitching a deal right now is like, this is the deal of the century. Well, my question is that going to be the deal of the century 90 days from now? Is that deal going to look different? Now,
Mhm.
there's a little bit of weight and there's a little bit of action you have to take into account here. So like if you're buying an asset at 30% discount of what it traded at last year with the same rent in place, take advantage of it. Like even if you get it at a 35% discount in 6 months, action beats inaction, that's a win. But if it's like a speculative deal, like oil and gas, like commercial real estate, like development, like you have to ask yourself, like, why is this the best deal ever? And if it's the best deal ever, why are they asking me for money?
Mhm.
Right. And so one of my favorite questions to ask people is, why did somebody say no to this deal already? Because you're not the first person they've asked. Like, let's be real.
Mhm.
We're all really cool people. We've all got a lot of success. I'm not the first person these people ask. Like they'll say
Mhm.
that to flatter you. Like, I had this great deal come across my desk and you were the first person I asked. I'm like, no, you weren't. Like your banker was the first person you asked because you wanted to do it yourself. It was so good. Like
Yeah.
and that's okay. Like I understand that. But it's a really good question to ask is like, why did people say no to this deal? So I
Mhm.
had a deal sent to me on Monday. And the first thing I asked the guy was, last week you told me somebody else was looking at the deal. Why did they pass on it? Because you just sent it to me now.
Mhm.
Well, that's a really good question. Here's all the reasons they did. Now, like I just have 50% of my due diligence done in them answering the question that I just asked, and I took 0 time.
Exactly.
So like, I would say this year we're being much more aggressive at letting people chase us rather than aggressive at chasing people.
Yeah. No, and for me, one of the things that I'm doing too is I am making sure that anybody that I partner up with, that they have had experience in the past, not just when the times were good, but maybe back in '08 or '09, maybe like 2012 and stuff like that, rather than, hey, I started doing, let's say, syndication or like apartments back in 2020, and then now all of a sudden we are hitting these obstacles that we didn't think of, or maybe they didn't underwrite the deals the right way, just because they said that they were more on the conservative side, but not really. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be doing. And then two, reaching out to you whenever I want to do a syndication, to make sure that the partners that I'm investing with are the right ones. So
The world is full of incredible people that are willing to give you their knowledge for free. Just ask.
mhm,
And one of the questions in the chat, and I have bad eyes, so I can barely see it, but it's like, what do you think about investing in syndications right now? Is that the question?
yes.
So like, this is a loaded question. There's like a million answers to this question because I have a million questions to follow it up. Like what kind of syndications, who are the people syndicating, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately my answer is going to be this. If you have the opportunity to own a casino versus have the opportunity to sit at a table with a casino that somebody else's owns, which one would you choose?
Mm,
Investing in a syndication is sitting at a table in a casino that you don't own, hoping that you get dealt the hand that they told you were going to get dealt.
mhm,
Not investing in a syndication and doing your own deals. Like the next question is, what do you think about buying your first investment property? I would much rather see people take their destiny in their own hands and invest in their own stuff. Use resources like FI investors in this group to like get knowledge, to gain resources, to gain courage, to take their own action rather
mhm.
than betting on someone else. Nobody will care about your money as much as you do. Not your stockbroker, not your mom, not your investment guy, not your boss. Nobody will care about your money as much as you do. And by investing in a syndication, ultimately you're saying like, I'm going to trust you more than I trust me.
Mhm.
And I'm going to watch you do what you said you're going to do with a property. You have no control. You have no ability to get out. You
Mhm.
are held hostage at that person and their success or their failure. Now, if you're investing in a guy who's done 472 syndications, his average IRR is 29%, and he's done it through 3 crashes, okay, that's a totally different story. That's a
Yes.
casino I'm going into, and I want to play that game. Like I'm
Mhm.
in.
Yes.
But a lot of these syndicators popped up over the last 2 or 3 years. They left like, oh, I used to be a lawyer and now I'm a syndicator. Like, wait, time out. You went to law school, you were practicing employment law, and now you're a real estate investor. Like, okay, that's possible. But how many syndications have you done? Well, this is my
Yes.
first. Okay. What happened in the last downturn? Well, in the last downturn, I was in law school. Okay. Probably don't want to be your guinea pig. Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to
Exactly.
risk my capital there.
Yes. And one of the things that I learned from Daniel De Real,
Yep.
he talks about revealed knowledge and communicative knowledge.
Yep.
Communicative knowledge, it's the knowledge that you get by reading books, by listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos. And even though that is good and you need that to get started, if you're going to be partnering up with people, you want to make sure that they have revealed knowledge, which
Yeah.
is based on experience, which is based on the downturns, the upturns, and all of that stuff, to make sure that they've been in the arena long enough to be able to get hit and get back up.
Yeah, find the dude who's got some scars, who's got some bruises, or whose clothes are a little ripped, and watch out for the dude with the fancy shoes, the slick suit, and the nice car. Like,
Mhm.
find people that have been there, that have rolled up their sleeves and been like, man, I was sleeping in the boiler room, fixing the boiler in the last downturn because I didn't have enough money to pay a boiler man.
Mhm.
Like, and we weathered through the storm, and I returned everybody their money back plus 2x, and we sold that property, and here's all the lessons I learned. Like, okay, that's somebody I want to be in the trenches with, right?
Exactly.
Find people that have been there before.
Yeah, that's important. There's a question here from Kathy. I'm getting a lot of opportunities in land in awesome locations of growth. What are your thoughts on investing in those and building now?
Man, there's so many things I could say to that. So the one thing I'll tell you is the fastest thing to fall in a market, in a shifting market, is land.
Mhm.
The reason there's so much opportunity in land right now is because these really big builders and these really big developers are super sophisticated. They all have like Harvard MBAs in structuring things. They do a really good job of structuring a contract, and heads they win, tails you lose if you're the seller. And so what they do is they tie up land, put it through a really long entitlement process, a really long due diligence process. And at any moment they say, we don't want it anymore, take it back. And so the reason you're seeing so much opportunity in land is because the big guys are walking on it. Now, that doesn't mean you should run. That means there's an opportunity if you're very careful, but make sure you have an unfair advantage. Like, make sure you have a connection with the city. Like, your dad is the head of the board that can change the way that the property is zoned, and you're going to be able to take it from a single family to a commercial, which is going to 4x its value. And you sit at the dinner table with the guy making this decision. Like, do something like that. Don't just go like, oh my God, this land's a great deal. Last month they had it under contract for 100,000 and I'm putting it under contract for 70,000. Like, there's a reason that that person walked on it. And always, always, always ask, who had this under contract before? Why did they walk on it? Who had this under contract before? Why did they walk on it? Like,
That's really good.
one of my favorite things to tell everybody is like, this private equity space used to be full of Harvard MBAs.
Mhm.
And like, that doesn't mean they're smarter than us. That doesn't mean they're more capable than us. It just means they're more educated than us. It's a very, very sophisticated game. Land is the same way. These builders, these large institutional builders and investment companies, they have way more resources than us little mom and pop guys do. They have analysts eating this stuff up for breakfast. They've had experience up the wazoo. Their cost of capital is way cheaper than ours. If they're walking on the land, there's probably something to pay attention to. And at the end of the day, land doesn't cash flow. So if you're going to buy this asset with cash and you're not worried about the cash flow, and you're like, I'm playing the appreciation game because my thesis is I want to 3x my money over 20 years. I want to do nothing. I don't even want to cut the grass. And I just want to be able to sell this plot of land when I'm 50, maybe a good investment. But if your investment thesis is I want to have debt on this, I need it to positive cash flow, I needed to do all these other things, land is probably not your best buy.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure, for sure. This is great, guys. People here, any advice on selling a luxury listing in today's market as a new realtor?
What market?
She's in Sarasota, Florida. Luxury in Sarasota.
You know, I would just tell you, like, you have to get it in front of the right people. I think luxury is still going to do well in front of the right people. Like, there are people buying right now. What I would encourage everybody on this call, whether it's in luxury real estate, whether it's in land, it doesn't matter. Find your unfair advantage in whatever space you're in and go a mile deep at that unfair advantage. So if you're in luxury and your unfair advantage is dealing with, immigrant clients, or your unfair advantage is like, dealing with second generation wealth, be the subject matter expert, get in front of every stinking person you can in that space and establish yourself as that asset class expert and say, like, I am the best person to sell a second generation home, a luxury listing in Sarasota, Florida. You are second generational wealth. You need to work with me.
Exactly.
And like, create your unfair advantage and outwork everybody else. Like, that's my only advice. Like, you could probably do some like Instagram ad or some Facebook ad and maybe you get lucky, but at the end of the day, hard work is what's going to persevere, and being that expert is going to give you an unfair advantage.
Yes. Building your connections really important too in the luxury market. Hopefully that helps, Francis. Then there's a question, how is the recession going to affect 2023 and what can we prepare for to acquire more rentals? So I think to on that part, to acquire more rentals is just being patient and make sure that you're underwriting the deals the right way. And the other thing is a lot of people are investing in real estate, right? But their interest rate right now, if you're going the conventional way with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, it's like 7-8% on an investment property. But if you're able to do seller financing, if you're able to find deals where the owners own 100% of the property with no loan, no debt, then there might be a win-win that you can do to negotiate a seller finance deal. Keep in mind that the 5 different things that you can negotiate is going to be the sales price, the interest rate, the amortization schedule, the balloon payment, and the down payment. So those are the 5 things that you'll be able to negotiate and use that to your advantage. I will be on the to acquire more rentals. That was the last property that I bought was in November. And no, it was in September. And we got it, we got a duplex here in Austin with 3% interest rate, 7% down, 40-year amortized, and no, 40-year amortized and 10-year balloon. So that was a freaking great deal.
It's a great example. Diego didn't bring me that deal, but he's brought me other deals. So he's never going to be the first person to show me a deal. He's going to look for himself first, right? So like you want to find those kind of deals. That's like an unfair advantage, and that's how you're going to kill it.
Yes.
Investment in tiny home rentals. Oh my gosh, man, that's such a loaded question. So it's all about where is it at? What is it? Is it like a glamping site that has like an Airbnb attraction with this beautiful falls that everybody's posting on Instagram? Or is it another tiny home in downtown Austin? And then the question is, what's going to differentiate you from the other tiny home next door? I think there is opportunity in tiny home rentals, just like there's opportunity in everything. I think you just really have to look at the saturation in the market you're looking at. What is your unfair advantage? And then how are you going to differentiate yourself? Because at the end of the day, you only got 500 square feet to differentiate from the other 500 square feet next to you. So you've got to really figure out like, what is my differentiator? Is it location? Is it look? Is it feel? Is it proximity to something? Like what is it? And that's kind of like the opportunity matrix I'd be looking at everything at. Like, what is my unfair advantage in this space? Why is this unit going to outperform the one next door? Like, what am I going to do differently? If you're looking at vacation rentals, like, do you have a slide in the basement, or are you just another one of the 5,000 homes in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, or like Sevierville, Tennessee, or whatever?
What ended up happening to the one in the Smokies for you?
So we sold one of them, and the other one is just closing, and we're going to sell that too. So
Cool.
So the thing we ask is like, what's going on in the market? What's happening? So a great example is Broken Bow. We were doing a bunch in Broken Bow in 2020, 2021. All of those units are finally coming online, and we were going to rent them, and we were really excited. We have a lot of equity in them. The reason we're going to sell them is they have 5,000 lots getting ready to come online for development. Yes, I understand they have a casino. Yes, I understand they have the water. Yes, I understand it's a very well attractive, vacation spot for people from DFW. And like, what's going to differentiate my 4-bedroom, 5-bath cabin in the woods versus that one? And there's 5,000 others. Like, I just don't want to play that game. Like, it's a race to the bottom, and it's just is a really hard game to win. And it becomes the widget game. And at the end of the day, someone's going to have cheaper cost of capital. Someone's going to have better resources. Someone's going to have something. And so I'd rather put my time and energy and assets in a place where I had an unfair advantage and could control my destiny a little bit better.
That's good. That's good. What would you recommend to people, for example, to make sure that they're still getting educated on their market? Like,
ask questions, like, take your banker to lunch, take your realtor to lunch, take your landlord to lunch, take another realtor to lunch, take another banker to lunch, and ask them 15 questions. Just sit there and shut up, ask questions. What are you seeing? Like, I have a rotating schedule right now. I call one of our bankers every week. We have 4 bankers. So every month I'm talking to 4 different bankers.
Dude,
what are you seeing? What are you feeling? Any distress? Where's the distress? What are you feeling? What are you seeing? Where's the distress? Any distress? What's the loan committee saying? What are you guys starting to feel? And then the other thing I tell them all is like, hey, remember, use us as a resource. If you ever get into a pickle, we can help you with workout situations. We have a really good pulse on the market. Guess what? I had a banker call me 2 weeks ago saying, I'm trying to underwrite these short-term rentals in Austin. I have no idea how to value. Can you help me? Yeah, sure, I'll help you. I help him value the short-term rentals. Now, when he has a problem with those short-term rentals, who's he going to call? Because he knows I'm the expert. So he's like, hey, would you want to take these off our books? Maybe that's a possibility. Now, there's no guarantees, but that's me trying to stack the chips in our favor to take an unfair advantage of.
Yeah.
of
And
the
you're providing
opportunity.
value too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. These are amazing tips, guys. Make sure that you're taking out your realtors, your brokers, your lenders to lunch so that you can hear more.
Besides residential real estate, what is another good real estate thing to invest in? More specific. Well, that all depends on what opportunity you have. If you have like really good connections, I would tell you the best thing you can invest in is distressed debt, primarily collateralized by some sort of real estate, because you're buying the debt on the asset rather than buying the asset itself. So you have a borrower in place that can pay down the debt. You have the debt at less than what the borrower paid for it. You have the ability to foreclose. You have the ability to call the note due. Like, you'll notice a theme with me is like, I'm a control freak. You know, like, so I always want to give myself an unfair advantage. If I hold your note and you start not paying, like, do you have an advantage or do I? Like,
You have an
I do. So I'm like, hey, Diego, if you don't pay, we're going to foreclose. I can't pay. Like, okay, cool. Well, you bought the house for $1 million. You owe us 700. We're going to take the house. It's probably worth more than 700. It's probably not worth $1 million. But if I can sell it for $100,000 more than my loan is, I, the bank, the note holder, just made $100,000 and you lost 3. So like, if you can get into that space, that's like beautiful, but that's a really hard space to get into. It requires a lot of really good connections. It requires a lot of good knowledge on loans and opportunities there. But like, if I had to give you my favorite space, like that's it. The debt space collateralized by real estate.
Interesting. So then you guys are giving out loans?
We're buying loans.
Buying loans.
Buying subperforming and non-performing loans.
From banks, right?
Banks are required by law. They can only have so many on it. And a lot of the banks will write off bad debt as a way to like manage balance sheets and stuff like that. So, you know, they write off a bad note. We buy it for 50, 60 cents on the dollar. If we buy the loan for 300,000 and you owe us $1 million, we have a really good spread on ability to make some money.
Yeah.
But that's a really hard game to play. So that's really terrible advice. I shouldn't have even told you that, but I'm just giving you opportunities to see what else is possible that you may not know of that you could research and really look into.
So you're making bank on the bank.
That's right.
That's right. Awesome. All right. There's a question here from Jerry. Jerry says, what is your advice for raising capital to capitalize on upcoming opportunities?
Man, I have so many pieces of advice I'd go to. The first question.
And just know that he's more than likely raising capital for multifamily in the future.
So my first question would be like, why should I invest in you, Jerry? Like, what have you done that differentiates you from the other multifamily guy raising money? You have to figure out what your story is and what you're going to be better at everybody else than. Like, I am the freaking best at C class and Hispanic communities that focuses on 32 units and less. And you will never find somebody that knows more about those units than me. Okay, cool. Like, I can invest in that thesis, but it is really direct. It is really specific and it's niched. So I would tell you to niche down if it's like your first time. If it's not your first time and you have your track record, the best thing you can do is tell your story, tell your track record, show how you've come through the other side of failures, show how you've performed for investors, show how you outperformed your analysis. And if you haven't gotten into the space, like, partner with somebody that's got a really good track record and learn. It's a really good time right now to work for knowledge and then convert that and work for equity when the market presents itself for the right opportunity. But, you know, if you're going to raise money for multifamily, just be better at everybody else than that specific space. Like, know why. Like, when I come and ask you, like, what am I going to invest in, Jerry? Like, you need to be able to tell me, like, I am the best orange building multifamily owner in the entire country, specialize in 32 units or less. All of the roofs are shingles. The driveways are still gravel. We pave those day one to add value to the units. And like, here's my buy box and my thesis that this is the only thing we're going to buy and I'm going to do it better than anybody else could possibly do it.
Damn. And if you say it with that confidence and you have the track record to prove it, boom, you're ready to go.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
All right. There's a question here from Ron. He says, Matt, when's the next GoBundance event? And are you looking for volunteers?
Yeah, man. If you email me, Matt at GoBundance, the team can help get you set up. The next one is in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which is a champions event, followed by the Lake Oconee event in October. So just email me at matt@gobundance.com and the team will jump in and help.
What are your suggestions to find distressed properties?
Oh man. Is that Sue?
Yes.
That's a loaded question. There's things like 10X. There's things like the foreclosure, the courthouse steps. I'd research Aaron Amuchastegi, who's a GoBundance member, who's probably like the best foreclosure guy that I've ever met. he does courses and stuff on foreclosure. Like the definition of foreclosure, I think means distress. Like the only reason the
Yes.
asset's being foreclosed on is because there's distress there. So, you know, I would learn and study. I would go figure out how to buy foreclosure properties. I'd buy that book, Bidding to Buy, that David and Aaron wrote, that talks about how to buy from the courthouse steps. I'd take Aaron's course, and I'd start with buying, you know, foreclosed real estate, single family, because that's easier. It's a little bit less sophisticated, and then get really good at that. And then you can kind of like Monopoly graduate to the hotel game where you're buying maybe commercial real estate debt.
Yeah, that's really good. What is your opinion on Fundrise, and where can you invest in real estate? Yeah, your opinion on Fundrise.
It's Fundrise.
Fundrise is, I believe that it is an application, right?
Okay.
It's a website where you can buy properties with other investors.
Yeah.
It's like a mini syndication.
Mhm.
I believe that that's what it is.
Yeah,
Where
my
you can buy
question-
like 10% of one deal, and
Yeah,
you're still getting
yeah.
10% return or whatever.
So look at the fee structure, look at who's making money on the deal. There's a reason that that platform exists, and it's not because they just want to make sure you have a great investment opportunity. Somebody came up with this as a business idea to make millions and millions of dollars and probably raise capital to build this platform at a crazy high valuation. So I'd first look into like, what is the reason behind Fundrise? The next thing I would do is I'd go to the mall. I would sit in the courthouse in the food court, and I would go, do I want to be in an investment with all these people in this food court? Because that's ultimately what you're doing. You're getting into business with a bunch of random strangers and hoping and praying that the person that posted the deal on the platform gets it to work out right. I would much rather see you guys call Diego or people you know, like, and trust and say, I have $10,000. I know it's not a lot. What would it take to get into your next deal? I trust you. I like you. I know you. And can you teach me? What can I do to learn? Like, there's way better ways for you to get into the space than investing in some crowdsourcing platform that somebody's got an unfair advantage of to make fees off of you, to sell you an asset. Like, I'll tell you guys something. A lot of those platforms buy an asset for $100,000 and then resell it on that platform for $140,000 because they're selling it on a yield. They're not selling it at the true value. So if they actually go to sell that asset on the open market, it's only worth $100,000. You just paid a $40,000 premium on an asset because you're buying its yield rather than its real value. So you've just got to be very careful. There's really, really smart con men in this world
Yes.
that are definitely trying to take advantage of you on platforms like that. And I would just be super careful.
That sounds like I heard about this in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Where they were selling you homes at like that 1% at like $75,000.
Yeah.
But they were really worth 40.
Yeah.
But they were selling you on that yield, and then they were even lending you the money so that you could buy it. And I was like, oh my gosh. But it was you buying cash flow.
Yeah.
But you cannot just buy cash flow if you're investing in a real asset.
No.
Right.
If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. I hate to break y'all's, all's heart on that, but if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
All right. There is
The foreclosure course. I don't know the name of his foreclosure course, but if you look up Aaron and Muchastegi, Real Estate Rockstars, I believe it's on the Real Estate Rockstars site.
Yeah, and we're definitely gonna have Aaron Muchastegi as one of the millionaire
He's
case
awesome.
studies for
He's
FI
awesome.
investors soon. We're having Matt Faircloth come in next month.
Off Fundrise's website, 5-year client return for 2023 Q1 was 0.5%. Yeah, thank you, Sue. Exactly my point. But if you look at their financials and their P&L, I bet you they made a lot of money.
Yes, they probably got a lot of fees. So, yes, well, cool.
And look, I want everybody to win. Like, I understand that on the other side of the transaction, somebody's making money. It's great. I just want it to be transparent. I want it to be open, and I want to make sure I'm not getting screwed while they make money. Like, when I go to the restaurant, I understand that the restaurant is selling me the burger for $16 that they're making for $9. If they try to charge me $35 for it, I'm probably going to feel taken advantage of and leave. So like, I want everybody to win, and there's enough space for everybody to win in this world. Just make sure you understand how they're winning. You understand their incentives, and make sure that there's an alignment of incentives when you're making investments. Like, if I lose my money, do you lose your money? And in most of the syndications, most of those people get their fees up front. So guess what? That $100,000 you invested is actually only worth $98,000 because they took a 2% acquisition fee. So now you've got to make up 2% just to get back to basis. And then anything thereafter is in your profit. So like understand what their incentives are, understand how they're making money, get comfortable with it. If you're comfortable with it, awesome. Let's both make money together. But if I lose money, I want to make sure you're losing too.
Exactly. And one of the ways that you can do that, if you're investing in a syndication as a limited partner, you can ask the GPs, the general partners, how much money are you putting into the deal as well? That way, they're just not, hey, I'm just putting on the sweat equity. No, you want to make sure that if you are putting your hard-earned money, that they're putting that too, so that if something goes south, they also lose money and they also feel hurt from that perspective.
But make sure you read the docs, because there's some really smart operators out there that will tell you they're putting money in the deal, but they're actually taking your fees, adding that into equity into the deal, because then they don't have a tax consequence on the capital that they received as fees. So they're not actually putting money in the deal. They're reinvesting your money that you owed them into the deal. So just make sure you pay attention to the docs. There's a lot of little tricky things that can happen. And the only way that I've learned all this stuff is from, doing it for David and getting so fortunate to see all these opportunities. But like, the world is full of information. People are always willing and eager to help. The only reason I know what I know is because I asked other people, how did you know that? What did you do? What does that look like, et cetera? So, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to seek mentors. Don't be afraid to find groups like FI Investors to help yourself grow and to bounce ideas off of people. And just make sure you understand the game you're playing.
Yeah, no, for sure. We're going to take a few more questions and that's it. Who are your collectors on those loans that you guys are buying?
We're the servicer, so we service the loans and collect.
Oh, this is good, Matt. How do you manage? Is this Sebastian from Boston? This is a good question. How do you manage your time as a father, husband, investor, and CEO, and everything?
Yeah, I wish I had my my backpack in here. I could show you my play calling sheet. Actually, if Ward brings my backpack in here, I can show you guys my play calling sheet that I use every week. I update it on every Sunday. I learned this thing from Rock Thomas called the Sunday System to Success.
Yes.
And I built out a play calling sheet. Thanks, man. I appreciate you. I can just show everybody. I can just
there we go. And while he's getting his stuff, one of the things that I did learn from Rock Thomas was to ask myself, what is great about this in every situation? Whether it's positive or negative, ask yourself what is great about this. And
on here probably, but I'm gonna try anyways.
Well,
I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
So really what I do is I have a really good schedule. I have really good goals every single week, and I pay attention to those goals, and I follow my schedule religiously. Like my team books me from like 7:30 in the morning till 4:30 at night. They know that 4:30 is my last call, because when I pull into the driveway, it's dead. But I'll send you an example. You guys can share it with everybody. Basically what I did was I was watching an NFL football game and I said, how in the heck does the offensive coordinator remember every freaking play that they run? Like they have annexation of Puerto Rico, annexation of this, like they have all these different plays, right? That's from Little Giants. If you've ever seen that movie, it's a good movie.
That was like, where?
Yeah, it's a good
like,
movie.
Dude, that's a good movie.
So they have all these plays and I was like, how do they do that? And I Google it. And of course, like a million options come up and I'm like, oh my gosh, here's their 1st and 10 passes. Here's their 1st and 10 runs. Here's their long down runs. Here's their short downs. Here's we're up by 10, milk the clock. Like they have this sheet that shows all of these different situations and scenarios. And here's the 4 or 5 plays we can call in those scenarios. So they basically take the game, the big game, and make it mini games and give themselves a couple options to call plays. And so I did that with my world. I have all of the businesses as different sections of the play. I have my own personal life as different sections of the play call. I have my own things with my wife as sections of the play call. And I just have things every single week. And I have that play calling sheet in front of me every single day at my computer. I highlight it, I check it, I cross it off, and I'm just going through the sheet and going, what situation am I in? What play am I going to call? What do I need to keep an eye on? What do I need to manage? But I have a habit tracker, so I track my habits every single day. I have goals that hold myself accountable to making sure I'm the husband I want to be, which I'm always trying to be better, the dad I want to be, which I'm always trying to be better, the son I want to be, son-in-law I want to be, which I'm always trying to be better. Like I have goals around that, and I'm very intentional about my life. You'll find that intentionality leads to success. And so like the more intentional you are with the day, I wake up at 4:13 in the morning. I have a backup alarm set at 4:17. I get to the gym by 5 a.m. I leave the gym by 6:30. I'm at the office before 7. Like I'm very, very intentional with my day. And I know if I take care of me in the morning, then I have an opportunity to take care of everything else in the afternoon. And if I take care of my work day during the day, I know when I get home, I can see my family and I can take care of them. And one of the tricks I've learned is and John White taught me this, a GoBundance guy, is I never walk in the house on a phone call, because the message that sends to my wife and the message that sends to my kids is this call is more important than you. And there is
Mhm.
no phone call that's more important than my children and my wife, unless it's of course them calling me. But what I do is I'll even drive around our neighborhood. And creepily, I found out my wife has like my GPS on my phone. She's like, "Why are you driving around the neighborhood?" I was like, "How do you know I'm driving around the neighborhood?" But I was like, I need to finish this call and I can't come home on the phone. And then what I'll try to do is I try to leave my phone in the glove box or the center console for the first hour I'm home, because the phone is the biggest distraction for
It
all of
is.
us. The
It
text,
is.
the emails, everything starts to happen, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, I need to focus on this." If it's in my car, locked in my glove box, I can't access it. So now I can be fully present to my daughter, fully present to my son, fully present to my wife, fully present to the dog, and be like, "Guys, this is about you." I have a
Mhm.
3-hour window before the kids go to bed. I make sure I'm home every day as much as I can to put them to bed. Tonight is a night I miss, unfortunately. But I just try to be really intentional with my time, and I try to give myself a little bit of grace. I'm not perfect. I know I'm gonna make mistakes. I know I'm gonna hurt people's feelings. I just try not to do it twice, and just try to understand like I'm only human, just
Yeah.
trying to grow.
No, for sure. And knowing your schedule too, right? From like you're up and running at 6:30 or 6 o'clock and at the office at 7. I know that if I text Matt at 6:30 in the morning or 6:45, he's gonna respond. And we're always talking at either like
7:30 this
a lot
morning,
of our
7:35.
conversations are between 6:30 and 7:30.
Yeah.
So
And the other thing I do is when my team sends me an email the night before of all the calls and all the meetings I have the next day, and that next morning I'll go through my alarms on my phone and I set an alert 2 minutes before every single appointment. So
mm,
I never have to waste my mind share on what's next, or am I going to lose track of time, or what's the time.
mhm.
My phone is going to alert me 2 minutes before every single thing of like, this is what I have to do next.
Yeah.
And so I just don't let too much noise into my life, or I do the best I can to manage and mitigate the noise so that I can be fully present to whatever I'm working on.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And really value your time too, because
Yeah,
I
my
know
pleasure,
you're gonna
man.
be traveling tomorrow. And I was like, are
So,
you sure you want to do this tonight? Because you're
dude,
traveling and
I'm
I want
all
you to
in,
be with
man.
your family. So
We're so fortunate. Diego and I have
yeah.
seen and experienced so many incredible humans and learned from so many incredible humans. All of the knowledge I'm sharing with you is not my own. I am not
Mhm.
that freaking smart. All I am is like this really good absorber of all the knowledge, and then a really good parrot at just like saying it back out. But I
Yes.
also put it all into practice. And so like if I can just give you one nugget that you can take with you for the rest of your life, it would be the greatest honor to me, because people have done that for me and it's changed my destiny, man. It's
Dude,
really has.
it is exactly what I was talking with Ward about this afternoon. I was like, I've been super blessed to be able to be with the GoBundance guys, be a sponge,
Yeah.
take action, and then be able to share this back so that other people can have that opportunity that I shouldn't have been given back in the day, where like
Yeah.
you had to be a millionaire to be there. And
Yeah.
then they helped me out. And for you too, that you were in that room and you were able to actually like go to Pat Hyben and then coming to Austin and everything. So it's been awesome. And that was the last question. I want to make sure that I respect Matt's time because it's 8:55 and we have this room for probably another 5 minutes. So
I'll send you guys my play calling sheet. You guys can share it
yes.
with the group. I'll send a blank version so you guys can just see what that looks like. And you'll see
Yes.
all the different businesses and the different ways I manage it. I
That'd be
update it every
awesome.
single Sunday and then print it out on Mondays and have a fresh.
Okay, that is good. I'm gonna be using that. So for sure, for sure. So people are saying, oh, for anybody, Matt, what is your IG? I'm gonna put it here.
No idea. I think it's
Matt
Matt King Austin or
King dot
ATX.
ATX,
Yeah, I
right?
think that's right.
Dot
That's right.
ATX.
Sure.
Sure.
If it's me, they'll find me. If it's not, they'll find me.
All right,
Man.
but you guys can always go on my IG and find something of him, and feel free to give him a shout out on Instagram, on a story, all of that stuff. And
Dude, you too, man. What you've done with the FI investors, what you've done in your life, the odds stacked against you, man. Someday I just want to be like you. It's incredible what
This
you
guy.
do, dude. It's amazing. I'm
thank
so
you.
proud to know you and grateful to be on this journey with you, man. Thanks for
you.
being you.
Thank you. And guys, thank you so much for your time. I know your time is valuable as well for anybody that's on Eastern time zone. It is getting 10 a.m., 10 p.m. So thank you for this opportunity. And Matt, don't know where the next one's going to be, but I know that it's going to be super valuable as always. And thank you for
Q3,
your
man. We got a
time.
cadence now.
Yes,
Q1, Q2,
Q1.
Q3.
Perfect. So we'll see you for Q3. And thank you very much for joining. Take care.
Appreciate y'all.